1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So I may have created the silliest video I've ever done.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
For my band Clarkson Go's new full-length album, The Syndicate, which, as a shameless plug, is now available everywhere you listen to music, we have spent a long time working on multiple music videos of varying scope and scale. For our song Hello Aquaman, a song our singer Johnny wrote like 10 years ago, he pitched back then a film that takes place in Atlantis in an underwater society inspired by the song. Now, I'm an indie filmmaker. I don't have Hollywood budgets, so I kind of wrote off a film that takes place entirely underwater as impossible. However, when we started conceptualizing video ideas for the album and added this song to the record, I remembered that pitch and I thought, what if we lean into that, but make it really absurd? So I wrote a short script about two soldiers hunting down Atlanteans under the ocean. They find Atlantis and face off against Aquaman. Now, despite my best efforts, we couldn't afford Jason Momoa, and the DC universe is dead anyway. So I said, we have a budget of $83. How do I make this happen? I ordered a bunch of toys on Amazon and used Photoshop's generative AI to create multiple background images to match each scene in the script. Then I used a 27-inch computer monitor I had and projected the backgrounds on that. I blocked out the toys in front of the monitor on a table, lit it, and basically created a super budget miniature version of a volume wall, which is increasingly being utilized in Hollywood, having been used on films like The Batman and shows like The Mandalorian. It allowed me to get shots like these, that, with a shallow depth of field, place these toys in almost real-looking environments. Now, I have no experience with stop-motion photography. I've never really done it before, so I decided to lean into the jankiness of it and give the characters either silly, absurd movements where I'm just evidently moving them around with my hand, or crude stop-motion moments where they just turn their head or something. I shot the entire thing on my Sony FX30. Since it has an APS-C sensor, it meant that the camera could feel a little closer to the toys and fill up the frame given the space I was working in. In terms of lighting, I used an old Aperture 120D with a light dome on it to illuminate and expose everything evenly. Then I used 4 Ulanzi VL110 light wands, which were great because I could prop them on the table or just magnetize them to a C-stand, and then an Aperture MC. That's it. Since the subjects were small, the lights could also remain quite small. I only used 2 lenses for the entire thing, my Sigma 35mm f1.4 art lens for wide shots, and my Rokinon 100mm T3.1 macro lens for all the close-ups. There are pros and cons to being this close on a 100mm macro lens. Some of the pros are, these toys are very close together, but they can feel like they actually have distance between them relevant to their size and scale. The con is, however, every micro movement on a macro lens feels huge. The slightest movement of the characters becomes very noticeable. The tiny nudge of the camera makes it feel like an earthquake. So I had to keep the camera really still for a lot of it, and use some editing tricks to get moments like this, where I whip pan away from one toy to another. I did that by panning away from the toy and then reversing the footage and cut on the motion blur, so it would hide the fact that these are 2 completely separate shots, for example. And then in post, I added a bit of a handheld shake to a lot of the shots, because if I actually went handheld on it, the footage would look very jittery. So this gave it a bit more of a floaty, underwater, lifelike handheld motion without me physically having to handhold the camera. And then there are other moments like this that were quite challenging, since I was doing this all by myself. I'm pulling focus with one hand while watching the monitor to make sure that I nail the focus pull.
Fucking finger.
And I'm simultaneously trying to move the toy with my other hand and keep it in frame. It was difficult to say the least.
Fuck.
Now, for the band playing, I shot a bunch of statics where I made the characters move frame by frame in a stop-motion manner, their hands moving up and down on the guitars or drums, and then I intended to fake them just playing that way. But then at the last minute, I decided to try a few takes just racking focus on the 100mm lens, flinging the camera almost randomly between each band member, with some of my light wands and the Aperture MC running on a strobe effect. I ended up actually using exclusively the close-up whip pan stuff because I liked the frenetic energy it brought to the band footage. It differentiated it from the rest of the scenes that I created, and it kind of hid the fact that none of the toys are moving and nothing is actually happening in the footage. And that was basically it for the production aspect of it. I spent about 2 days off and on in my studio shooting before I started editing. I laid the song out on the timeline, cut the scenes together, color graded it, animated the dialogue text to sort of emulate a comic book look, and added a displacement watery effect over the footage in After Effects to give it that feeling of being underwater. I initially tinted everything blue, but it felt a little too over the top and it made all the scenes feel kind of exactly the same, so I just reverted it back to a more natural Rec 709 look in color. But my absolute favorite moment in the video is when Aquaman blows up the soldier. I had a lot of fun with this. I used the free Saber plugin from Video Copilot in After Effects to make Aquaman shoot lasers out of his eyes. Then I basically just layered a whole bunch of energy effects from Film Riot's Infinity Pack over top. I tinted them blue, set the blend mode to screen, and had them start at different times around the soldier. I added a few red ones with a Gaussian blur to simulate blood dispersing into the water, and using a clean plate of the background, I had him disappear partway through the explosion to make it seem like he exploded into a poof of blood and guts. I created a bigger water displacement effect that waved across the frame after the explosion, as if it was sending out a shockwave of water through the frame, and I thought that really kind of sold the effect. Ultimately, I was pretty happy with how this little explosion came together. When the music video was complete, the guys enjoyed it so much that we all decided to make a full-blown short film version. So I did an extra shoot day and added a few new scenes to bridge some of the story gaps. We each voiced the characters in my vocal booth, which is where I'm doing this right now. Johnny played the bad guy captain.
I'm gonna dip you in tartar sauce. See you in hell, fish sticks.
Russ played the scared Sergeant Sniv.
Fuck, why is he so huge?
And I played a security guard and Aquaman.
Another day on security detail.
You are intruders. Leave or suffer the consequences.
Johnny's wife Olivia did all the sound design, and Johnny composed new music for the film and did the final sound mix. I can't really speak to exactly what they did. Sound design and sound mixing goes a little bit over my head, but if you listen to the film, you can hear how much work went into making this silly film sound good.
You are intruders. Leave or suffer the consequences.
Fuck this! You're on your own, Cap!
Final warning, human.
I've waited a long time for this. See you in hell, fish man.
So anyway, that's basically how I made a silly stop-motion music video, which then evolved into a film, for one of our songs on a budget of $83. As I mentioned, if you want to check out the music video, it's on the Clarkson Go YouTube channel, which I will link here. The film is on this channel, and the album is out now wherever you listen to music. We've been working on this record for over 2 years, so if you can donate half hour of your time to listen to it, I would greatly appreciate it. And keep an eye out for many more music videos coming as well. Maybe some more behind-the-scenes things too. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. Anyway, see ya!